Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday. I hope the work week is in your rearview mirror. If it's not, we'll get you to the finish line here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Let's get things rolling today. Lots to do over the course of 2 hours. Preston Guy is usually with us at 1:15 on Fridays. We're going to bump that back to 2:15. Darius McKinley, Dominic McKinley's younger brother, is set to commit right now. Preston's going to have to cover that for Tiger Bait. So we're going to see when that materializes. He'll get his work done, and then we'll chat with him at 2:15. We're also going to crank back up an old feature that's been really since the inception of this show. Meet the Freshman.
Actually, Hunt, they did. The commitment has been completed.
He went on time at 1 o'clock?
LSU got him.
That is unheard of, that a high school commitment would go off exactly on time. So either way, Preston's going to do his work, and we're going to chat with him at 1:15. I'm going to talk about Darius McKinley in the next segment. I figured for sure we'd have to wait 15 minutes for that. Turns out that didn't happen. So that's good news for LSU. We'll talk about it coming up. We're going to do Meet the Freshman in the second hour as well. We'll go through LSU's entire freshman class over the course of a couple of weeks. Charles Ross and JT Lindsay will lead things off today. We'll talk about that. Ronnie Rand's going to jump to board a little bit later. I'm going to finish off my position series with LSU, and we've gone around the depth chart. We'll talk about safeties today. We're going to start things off with the Saints. We'll do that in our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Let's talk Saints. Let's talk running back specifically. Last year, Alvin Kamara set a career high in rushing yards as a Saint. He could have run for 1,000 yards if he wanted to. Essentially, the Saints decided they didn't want to push the envelope for a fledgling team down the stretch for a veteran running back who they just signed to a 2-year extension, who was beat up all year. But if they wanted to, they could have fed him the football a little bit more, and he would have run for 1,000 yards last year. But I think the Saints would like to ease his workload a little bit this year. I think that stands to reason. Alvin Kamara is 30 years old. He's got a lot of wear and tear on him from the NFL. Still a productive player. Maybe not quite the player he once was, but still very productive, tough as nails, versatile, able to catch the ball exceptionally well, and they got to block better for him. But this is not really an Alvin Kamara segment here. This is a segment about who's next. And I was listening to After Further Review yesterday, Matt's show that follows me here, and he had Jeff Duncan on. And Jeff Duncan, who's covered the Saints for a quarter century, said he thought the biggest position battle on the team was the backup running back. Most hotly contested, most questioned battle on the team, outside of quarterback, obviously. And he said he doesn't think that's a good thing. And I understand that. Like, you'd like to be a little bit more settled there. You do have options. You've got Cam Akers. And I feel like, this is a personal thing, I feel like Cam Akers is 100 years old. Because I remember following Cam Akers on the recruiting trail when he was a junior in high school. Cam Akers is not 100 years old. He's 25. This will be his year 26 season. He started his career with the Rams and played there for 3.5 years, went to the Vikings, and has played with the Texans as well, split time between the Vikings and Texans last year. Cam Akers has not been a wildly productive back in his 5 years. He's talented. He was a 5-star recruit. He had a great career at Florida State, and he got off to a really nice start as a rookie for the Rams. He ran for 625 yards in 13 games, scored a couple of times, averaged over 4 yards a carry, was productive, not dominant by any stretch, but productive. And he had his run there, and then he went to Minnesota, and I would suggest that was a mediocre run there of 6 games in the first season he was there. He ran for 138 yards total. And then you go to Houston this past year and you start a couple of games and you carry the ball 40 times for 147 yards and a touchdown. He's only scored 13 times. at this point, he's kind of a journeyman, but he's not old. So he's a proven professional. You know he can play the position. Is he going to be a star? No. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is another guy we've known around here for a very long time, since he was in high school. And he was a first-round draft choice of the Chiefs off that 2019 team. You're thinking that is such a great fit for him. They've got all these bells and whistles on that phenomenal offense with Patrick Mahomes, who at that point was still a very young quarterback, and Andy Reid's coaching, and they're gonna use him like crazy. And it just never really materialized. He was a starter his first year, started 10 games his second year, and then over the last 2 years he was in Kansas City, only started 9 times total, and over those 2 seasons ran for 525 yards. So the Saints pick him up. He's obviously dealt with some things off the field. He played 2 games for him last year, but he's not old either. He's 25. So these are not guys that are way past their prime. They're just guys we've known a long time. And they're here to try to win a job. And they might. Cam Akers might be the best option as the backup running back. Clyde Edwards-Helaire might be the best option as a backup running back. I contend that the best option as the backup running back would be Kendre Miller. And I only say that not knowing that Kendre Miller's skill set is significantly better than Cam Akers and or Clyde Edwards-Helaire's. I say that because there's some upside there that we may not have seen. My contention is, at this point in Clyde Edwards-Helaire's career and Cam Akers' career, you kind of know what they are. They're middling backs in the NFL, which is a heck of a career accomplishment to hang around in the NFL for 5, 6, 7 years. But they haven't been difference makers. They've had multiple stops in their career. There's no cushier spot to play than Kansas City, and Clyde just never really found a groove there. So I don't feel like there's a lot of upside with either of them. With Kendre Miller, there is, because we haven't seen him. You know, he started 2 games in 2 years as a Saint. He's only played in 14. He scored 2 touchdowns on the ground, none receiving. He's caught the ball 15 times in 19 targets. He's rushed it 80. His average yards per carry is 3.8. There is upside in Kendre Miller in multiple ways. 1, he hasn't played a lot. And 2, when he has played, the Saints' offensive line has been a mash unit. They have not stayed healthy at all the last 2 years up front. And those are Kendre Miller's only 2 years in the NFL. We're talking about a 23-year-old back who's never played behind a competent O-line and has dealt with injuries. There's clearly something we have not seen from him. But there's no guarantee we're going to, because the Saints have brought in help. So to me, if you're talking about players that have a chance to be on the next really good Saints team, which is the theme of my entire coverage of this franchise right now, who can be on the next great team? Do you think Cam Akers is going to be on that team? I don't. I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be on that team either. But Miller could be. Miller could be the heir apparent. Miller could be the guy. We haven't seen anything to suggest he will be, but we've seen so little that it stands to reason there may be more. So to me, as I watch this battle unfold and I watch them go through reps at camp, I want to see Kendre Miller emerge. And it's possible. I will tell you, I'm one of these guys who suggests that injuries oftentimes are bad luck. That, when I hear the term injury prone, I sometimes push back on that, really, or maybe just some really bad luck. That happens in sports. I don't think that pulling your hamstring in the first exercise of training camp is bad luck. I don't think you were ready for training camp. I don't know that. I'm not a doctor. I didn't do an MRI on Kendre Miller. I wasn't there when he hurt his hamstring. But it's pretty easy to deduce. I don't think he was ready for training camp last year. But maybe that injury and then the way that Dennis Allen handled it, and you heard him just dismiss Kendre Miller in every way, maybe that lit a fire under the third year back. Maybe that is what he needed to get things going. The Saints clearly saw something in him that made them want to take him where they did in the draft. And we haven't seen any of that in black and gold. So to me, I look at Kendre Miller and I go, okay, you've got two guys in here that are looking to take your job and get you cut. That's why they're there. I hear Hester talk about that all the time. When somebody comes to the facility and they're working out or they're in training camp, their job is to make sure you get cut. And maybe there's a fire under him that's going to allow that breakthrough that we've been waiting on. Because if he does, that is a big positive for this team. The two positions I've harped on as far as young talent with this roster are offensive line and corner. The returns on offensive line have been very, very good. Fuaga had a great year last year. They really like what Kelvin Banks looks like a week into camp. Looks like Kool-Aid McKinstry's really turning heads out at corner. Like, you're starting to see some things. Quincy Riley's made a couple plays. I'm ready for that report to come out on running back with Kendre Miller. Maybe Devin Neal is the guy. I wouldn't push back against that completely. But Miller's upside is probably greater than any back they've got in training camp. If he can break through, that's another piece to the foundation the Saints can add. But there's no guarantee of that. He's got to go out there and do it. And there is plenty of competition nipping at his heels day in, day out. So that's my take on running back right now. We'll keep eyes on that, and we'll certainly talk to our Saints beat writers next week from camp. But I'm looking at Kendre Miller to be a breakout guy this training camp into the preseason and be that number 2 back behind Alvin Kamara, and they can lessen Kamara's workload, and eventually Miller can go ahead and be the heir apparent at running back for New Orleans. Saints coverage brought to you on LouisianaSports.net and right here on the Hunt Palmer Show. And you can see it at Hunt on Saints on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast. Hunt on LSU, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, wherever you find your Saints coverage. Hunt on LSU. Appreciate y'all subscribing up to the channel. They are certainly in full swing down there in New Orleans. All right, reschedule change. We're going to throw Preston Guy back in at 1:15 because Darius McKinley cooperated and went on time. So we'll talk to Preston Guy coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisOfBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisOfBatonRouge.com. How about this? You hate dealing with the oil change. You hate getting the maintenance done. It's just a nuisance. It takes up your whole morning. I just hate dealing with it. Well, don't deal with it. Go ahead and be a Genesis driver. They come to you. They drop off a loaner. So even if you do have to get mobile, you are while your car is being serviced. They handle your oil change. They handle your air filter. They handle the alignment and all the things that have to be done as far as maintenance goes. Take care of your car, one of the biggest investments we have. And you don't have to sit there and deal with it. It's valet. And when they're done, say, hey, all done, coming back to you. Drop your car off. You're good as new. It's just part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. You got to go check out the dealership, Airline at Piku, and just see the difference I'm talking about. The people are first class. The line of vehicles is wonderful. The perks that come with being a driver are fantastic. It's a luxury vehicle at a reasonable price. Check out the entire inventory at GenesisOfBatonRouge.com. That's GenesisOfBatonRouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Chugging along here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We are brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Get on by and see them for late lunch. Government between Foster and Jefferson. You can find the menu online at corksfishandshrimp.com. Jumbo Gulf shrimp, delicious crispy fried catfish, shoestring fries as well. Just awesome, awesome stuff over there at Corks. They got great po' boys as well. You want to go by and check them out, or if you want to get catering, they can handle that as well. The Big Haul is very popular for a big size family or big gathering that comes with 10 strips of catfish, 30 jumbo shrimp, some coleslaw, a box of fries, 8 hush puppies, 5 rolls, and your choice of sauces. I highly recommend the Cork sauce. Fantastic stuff over there at Corks to bring you our Friday shows each and every week. Chat with Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. Good enough to give us a little bit of time here. How about that? Darius McKinley goes right on time. That never happens with high school kids.
Hey, look, Hunt, I will say this is likely the best part of the Hayes Fawcett era when they just have a scheduled tweet that goes out right on time.
Yeah.
Man, you know how many ceremonies I've been to
Ugh.
where they start 20 minutes late, then they have 45 minutes of thank yous, and then the kid goes up there and, he throws 6 fake hats on the floor just to whip out a puppy or something, This is the one nice part of it. But, we still sometimes get a little bit of that here and there. But, it's very timely. We did not have to move our call around. I was expecting to be sitting by my keyboard waiting to publish a story, but we knocked that out 15 minutes ago.
Love to hear that. All right, let's talk about LSU's team on the practice field. I don't know if you've had a chance to get out to practice yet, but anything that has stood out over the first couple of days for you, whether it's via reports, whether it's press conferences, anything that's been of note as camp cranks up?
Can I give you a little bit of a boring answer? I have trouble determining too much with guys in shorts.
Yep.
In abbreviated practices. What stood out to me, Brian Kelly is putting a big emphasis on acclimating to the weather. That's interesting to hear. What stood out to me is the messaging of let's go 1-0. Let's beat Clemson. We're not going to just look at this as like we're preparing. We're preparing for the first game right now. It's such a major focal point to go out there and win the opener. And what it tells me is Brian Kelly is more in tune with what the fans want than we give him credit for. It seems like a lot of times coaches are very good at blocking out the noise. Fans want to win the opener. I promise you, if you ask fans, media, and probably players and coaches too, if you had to pick one game on this schedule to win, it might be that opener at Clemson, just to get that opener monkey off the back. It's been half a decade. So the messaging is a little bit of a surprise. A few players, Destin Hill is one who has caught me as, well, that's a guy I expected not to really contribute this year, but he looks crisp out there. Blake Baker and his moves, we have to see if he has any eligibility to play quarterback for LSU. He might take Juwan Johnson's spot from what I'm seeing.
There was a little video there of a nice little read option juke there by Blake Baker, who always has fun with the cleats on out there at practice. Let's talk about his position group. The 2 Weeks brothers were on the inside with the first team when we went out there on Wednesday. Did that surprise you a little bit?
Not particularly. Maybe Davin Keys, I thought, would earn the starting spot there. But, Wes Weeks is a veteran guy who has played some ball. You can't tell me those two don't have chemistry with one another. I mean, they grew up together. So, maybe that's good. I like having veteran guys out there at that spot. Just because you're in the middle of the defense, you have to read so much of the defense. I believe Davin Keys is probably the more talented player than Wes Weeks, not Whit Weeks, but Wes Weeks. But Whit Weeks, I mean, you cannot count out his veteran presence and how long he's been a part of this system, chemistry with his brother there. And then, of course, sometimes I guess you count Starr as a linebacker too, although it's more of a hybrid role. I like having Harold Perkins there on the edge, causing havoc. Let those two clean up the runs inside, and let Perkins do what he does out there. It's hard to say you don't like what you got there. I'd say linebacker is one of the few positions where you'd like to see some more depth develop. Probably your starters stand out more than your depth at that position, and I'd say the opposite is true for most other positions on this team.
Well, if you look at it, like running back and linebacker are the only two positions on the field that they didn't add a transfer. And they had 5 true freshman linebackers that came in. So I wonder if that's confidence in the 5 true freshmen they brought in or the fact that they just didn't see a linebacker that they liked. What is your take on that? Probably
a little bit of both. I do know they were being particular in the portal and only taking guys they wanted. But, I mean, you look at it and, you got Wes Weeks who surprisingly came back for another season. They were kind of expecting him not to redshirt, but he did. I mean, he got to play 5 games last year, which is a little egregious in my opinion. But, the ball games don't really count for much. Okay, roll them out there. They like Keelan Moses. They really like C.J. Ross. I think he's one of the just really underrated guys coming in. And, if you look at it, a lot of true freshmen. They like what they had out of Keys, and I don't think there was too much of a reason to bring in a transfer guy, but now you do find yourself in a position where you've got starters, you've got Keys as a guy you trust really, and then you're really hoping one of these younger guys can kind of step up and be able to give you some quality depth.
Yeah, I think Ross is the guy that they would look to there. He was running with the twos on Wednesday, and he was an early enrollee. I'm going to talk about him a little bit later on in the show. Let's zoom out even further, Preston. I was looking over some of the numbers on defense last year. And if, in my opinion, if you take out 2023 and just evaluate 2024, they were bad on defense. Like if you compare it to 2023, it was an improvement. Where do you stand on that conundrum?
Yeah, I mean, defense wasn't good enough to win a championship last year. Although I'll argue last year's defense with 2023 offense probably is good enough to win it all. It might be a dogfight. You might lose a game on the way, but I think last year's defense, at least, I think they could have held a team from scoring 70 if needed. You know what I mean? Or maybe they get Ole Miss in 2023. Maybe they hold them back from scoring one more touchdown. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I think, yes, objectively, it was not a good defense last year. I believe they ranked, 59th in the country in total defense. I'm just going off the top of my head. I don't have that metric pulled up. But that's not good enough to win a championship with most offenses. Most of the time, you're going to need a top 25 defense and a top 25 offense as well, and preferably at least one of those much higher. If you look at the 2019 defense, it actually ranks a lot better than you would think. I believe it was in the 20s in total defense, particularly the way that defense was playing toward the end of the year. So, yes, I think you need a good defense. You need good on all phases of football, defense, offense, and special teams, preferably with one of those units being great. And I think both the offense and the defense have the potential to both be great, meaning higher than like a top 25 type unit.
What do you think the strength of the defense is going to be?
Oh, edge rushers. A lot of people think I'm crazy, but I'm looking at these edge rushers. You realize you're bringing in a guy like Patrick Payton from Florida State, who, by all accounts, is an absolute just pass rush, one of the better pass rushers in the country. And he likely might not be a starter. In fact, right now, he is not on your starting defense, period. That right there tells you what you need to know about these edge rushing room. I mean, Gabe Relaford, he's a stud. I mean, Jamari Butler, we're talking about a fifth-year veteran player coming from Nebraska, and he's not even somebody anybody's talking about. Then you go down the list. Look at Dylan Carpenter. Look at how physically chiseled Dylan Carpenter is. And you cannot tell me that guy is not capable of playing football, okay? But he's a guy who's barely making the third string. I think your edge rushing room and ability to get after the passer, in my opinion, will be the strength. Of course, we're not going to see that in fall camp yet because they haven't put on pads. So everybody likes to ask, well, how do the linemen look at first week of practice? And it's like, I don't know, man. You literally cannot tell you much other than how they physically look until they wear pads. So hopefully we had a good look. Maybe tomorrow they give us a little bit of a look at that, maybe some shells tomorrow.
And then to kind of piggyback off of that, is there a biggest concern you have on defense?
Biggest concern on defense? Well, I'll tell you what, the defense, I don't have as big of a gaping hole as, say, offensive line, although seeing the starting lineup yesterday, I'm encouraged. Safety, I'll say safety, but here's where I stand on the defensive backs, okay? Maybe the safety room doesn't look up to par, but particularly if DJ Pickett develops into like a Derek Stingley type impact that he has, not even saying he has to be as good as freshman Derek Stingley Jr., but just he's on the field and contributing like he looks like he can. I have trouble believing you can't find four studs in this defensive backfield. You can't find four guys to go out there and be SEC players. I have a lot of trouble believing that. Now, whether it's your safeties that end up playing safety or maybe you have to scoot a corner over to safety to get that, I don't know. But I'm just telling you, I have a lot of trouble believing there won't be four guys ready to go.
Got a lot of options. I feel like across the board on this roster, the floor is very, very high outside of offensive line. Just a matter of how high is the ceiling and how close do they get to reaching that. It's kind of all over the board. It's kind of my take on the situation. I know you all are busy over there at Tiger Bait. Tell everybody now that camp's fired up what you got coming.
Well, my live show returns Monday night with Zach Navy of Sports Illustrated. So y'all can come talk to me, and we're going back at it for the next 6 months. We'll be going live until February, so we'll do that. So y'all make sure to follow the YouTube channel, Facebook page, and check our website out. Of course, you can catch all that. And, of course, I'll be posting it all to my Twitter. You can follow me, PGuy77. And that's a great way to keep up with all of it.
We'll see you tomorrow out on the Ponderosa.
All right, Hunt. See you there.
Preston Guy, TigerBait.com with us on Fridays talking football, and football's here. Looking forward to getting out there and checking out some practice tomorrow. As Preston mentioned, hopefully they put some shoulder pads on tomorrow. That makes practice a little bit easier to watch. Tough to evaluate linemen run around in T-shirts. It's just not a lot you can glean from that, but if they can put some shells on, they'll get a little bit more physical, and we'll have a little better chance. We'll get to watch the entirety of practice tomorrow. I think we get to film the first 3 sessions, which doesn't really apply to me anyway. I'm just taking notes the whole time, but as far as footage goes, you probably see the first 3, and then we'll have practice reports coming up, and then we get to talk to some players tomorrow after practice as well. So looking forward to a little bit busy Saturday morning coming up tomorrow. Friday show is brought to you by Corks. We'll come back and finish up our look around LSU's depth chart with the safeties. Doing that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Had a series running on LouisianaSports.net over the last 2 weeks called In-Depth Chart. If you're looking to get familiarized with this LSU football roster and would like to kind of take a trip around the depth chart, you can go to the LouisianaSports.net teams page, click LSU, and every single story that I've written called In-Depth Chart is right there. I finished it up this morning with safeties. Last position, and I think one that raises a lot of question marks because coaches, generally speaking, don't call out players or position groups that often. It happens, but it doesn't happen that often. Brian Kelly, multiple times last year, talked about how the safeties have to play better and we have to limit the menu and we just need simple assignment football and we're not even adding anything to their plate. He was consistently harping on the fact that LSU's safety play was not good enough last year. And so the issue is that they've got to get a lot better this year. And they've added 4 new faces, 2 from the transfer portal that are expected to come in and likely play. And you've got 5 guys back as well. You lose Major Burns. He graduated, signed with the Bears. We'll see if he can make that team. Sage Ryan transfers to Ole Miss. Jordan Allen and Kylan Jackson were young guys on last year's team. Allen transferred to Houston. Kylan Jackson transferred to TCU. So you do have 5 guys back. Jordan Gilbert returns. He played last year with a separated shoulder. Javian Toviano is back for his junior year. Deshaun Spears is back as a sophomore who we really, at this time last year, were picking him to be a breakout guy. And you saw that over the course of the first month, like he was playing. He played 148 snaps the first 5 games. The last 5 games, he played 30. So he was playing early, and then they hit that first bye week, and they just said, no, we're going with Major Burns and Sage Ryan and Jordan Gilbert. Sit down freshman. So Kylan Jackson didn't play and Deshaun Spears didn't play. And so you didn't see those guys develop last year the way that we thought they might. But he's back. Joel Rogers is back for a redshirt freshman year. And Austin Osbury, who went to Auburn for a couple of years, has come back and he's back on the team as a redshirt junior after last year. So those are the 5 guys you bring back. And then you bring in Tamarcus Cooley from NC State. You bring in A.J. Halsey from Houston. And then a couple of freshmen, Jacob Bradford from Catholic. Jace Thomas comes in as well. And you've got a lot of depth. I mean, you're talking about 9 guys who are safeties on this roster. So depth is not an issue. The issue is who's going to play. And I will just start with this before I even start breaking down why this and why that. A.J. Halsey is going to play. I say that for 2 reasons. A.J. Halsey has been massively productive in his first 2 stops in college. Massively. He started his career at New Mexico. He made 24 tackles in one game as a freshman. It was the most anyone's made in like 4 years in D1. And so after a great freshman year at New Mexico, he goes on to Houston. He was the Big 12 Newcomer of the Year his first year at Houston. And last year, tied for the Big 12 lead in interceptions, graded an 85.8 in coverage by Pro Football Focus, and was first team All Big 12. He was incredible at both of those stops. And then you go out to practice, which is the second layer of this, not just on paper what he did at New Mexico and Houston. Then you go out to practice, you look at him. He's not 6'3" like Deshaun Spears, but he's 225 pounds, and you can notice he's a big dude. And so when I put those two together, what he looks like on the field and what his stats look like on paper, and I look at what LSU was at safety last year, Halsey's playing. Period. It's just a matter to me of who's next. And Halsey was running with the twos on Wednesday. That's not going to last. I refuse to believe that. I think that's because he didn't come in the spring. He's getting acclimated to LSU and the defense and the calls and how practice runs. By the time this thing rolls around 3 weeks from now, he will be on the first team. Right now, my pick is that he will be joined in the backfield by Jordan Gilbert. Jordan has been an average SEC player at two stops now at A&M and LSU, but he's played a lot in those two stops. You're talking about a guy who started 21 games for an SEC program. His grades last year for PFF were not good. 57.7 overall, 55.1 in tackling. He was really poor in tackling against Alabama and Texas A&M, missed 4 total tackles in there. His tackling grades were 25.2 and 27 in those 2 games. And obviously, the quarterbacks just annihilated LSU on the ground in those 2 games. And that's not Jordan Gilbert's fault. That's everybody's fault. Everybody on defense was atrocious in the second half of the A&M game and the entirety of the Alabama game. Awful on defense the whole way. But the safeties didn't help because you were allowing big plays, and Gilbert was out there for some of that. And Toviano played a little bit last year. He started at corner his first year when they were out of guys to play cornerback, but moved to safety. He's played in 26 games. He's kind of been a depth piece. Not exactly the career arc you thought when he was a 5-star by rivals coming out of high school, but he's a big kid, physical kid, and he's played a lot of football. And Spears is the wild card here because he didn't work with the first team or the second team on Wednesday when we went out to practice. That was disappointing to me a little bit. But again, it's the first day. There is potential in there that's massive because of his size at 6'3" and his speed. When you go out to practice and you see Deshaun Spears, he looks like Eric Reed. Not the 49ers Eric Reed, but Eric Reed when he got to LSU. And Eric Reed, when he got to LSU, by the end of his freshman year, was starting. So Tamarcus Cooley's a guy that I haven't talked about in this segment just yet, but he's versatile. He played nickel for NC State last year. I think he's going to play nickel for LSU. I'm not sure what Harold Perkins' role is with that, the star and the nickel, and does Perkins come off the field, or when they go to nickel, does he go down to the line of scrimmage? Like, that's something they'll have to work out. But Cooley's going to play down around the line of scrimmage a good bit. He was an excellent tackler last year at NC State. He was a great run defender, graded 81.3 against the run. His coverage grade was also an 80. He's 6 feet tall, not very tall, maybe a shade under that, but he'll get in there and hit you. Also had some interceptions, 2 of them in the bowl game last year. So you look at this safety depth chart, and here's how I read it right now. To me, not what I saw at practice, how I would read it. Halsey and Gilbert as the starters, Deshaun Spears nipping at their heels, and then Tamarcus Cooley moving down. That's how I see this group. I don't know that I see a huge role for Javian Toviano. He was running with the ones on Wednesday, so I could be dead wrong on that, but that's my read on it. And maybe Toviano and Spears are the top 2 guys. Maybe Toviano kind of backs up Tamarcus Cooley. That's to be determined in camp. But I think this group is going to be significantly better than last year. I think last year's group was very poor on the whole. That's why LSU gave up massive big plays week after week. LSU allowed the most 50-plus yard plays in the SEC last year and were 15th in 40-plus yard rushing plays. The only team that was worse at allowing big plays on the ground was Kentucky, and they went 1-7 in the league. So they got to get better at this. I think Halsey is an immediate massive upgrade. I think Gilbert's going to play better with a healthy shoulder. And I think that Spears has a real chance to grow into something. They've got to get this right because the massive plays against South Carolina and Nichols and Alabama and A&M have to stop. And that, in part, is due to safety play. I'll live with not being the best coverage guy and giving up a couple of 15-yard out routes. I'll live with that. I cannot live with Rocket Sanders and Lenoris Sellers and the Guggenheimer kid and Milroe and Marcel Reed running wind sprints all over the field because LSU can't stop them at the second and third level. That has to stop. Those big plays are demoralizing. They're game-changing. They get the away crowd going. I mean, you saw the crowd in College Station when they got rolling. You've got to stop that at 8 to 15 yards and not let it go for 60. And safety's got to help with that. And I can't help but think that a guy like A.J. Halsey, who had 24 tackles in a game, was all first team all Big 12, not first team all Ivy League, all Big 12, is going to be able to step in and make some tackles. And hopefully Deshaun Spears kind of grows into that as well. I'm bullish on this group. I don't think it's 2011. I don't think it's 2019. We had Delpit back there. But I think you've got a chance to be above average. And I think you can stop some of the big plays, and I think you'll have sure tacklers. And you were not good enough there last year. And I don't want to knock on specific players, but I think the talent that you've got on this depth chart compared to last year's depth chart, that is significant. And I'll kind of leave it at that, right? I think you all know where we're going here. This is a group that should be better on paper, should be better on the field. And it's a big, big deal for LSU to get that fixed. Jake Olson's group was not good last year. That's got to change in a hurry. I think it just might. I've got a little bit deeper look at the safeties at LouisianaSports.net. Got some more numbers there you can check out. If you just prefer the written word, you can find it for free over at LouisianaSports.net. Every single position now has been previewed. Started at center, went to guard, tackle, tight end, wide receiver, running back, quarterback, came to the defensive side of the ball, defensive tackle, edge, linebacker, corner, and safety. Gone through the entire thing. So if you want to familiarize yourself with this LSU roster, go check that out at LouisianaSports.net. All right, we'll step aside. I've got this written on the doc. Beck has no idea what this is. We're giving him a pop quiz. We'll do that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Working towards the weekend, just about there. Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Busy second hour. We'll start with Ronnie Rance, Rougarou in the championship game tomorrow, so we'll talk about that with Ronnie briefly. We'll get into our Meet the Freshman series, start with a couple of guys, one on the offensive side, one on the defensive side of the football, and so we got some LSU football that we want to get to. Tigers got a commitment within the last hour. But to close out this hour, it's time to quiz Jacob Beck. Can we have some music here, Beck? What do you think this is about?
I'm guessing it has to do with the fact that I'm supposed to be having a child soon.
You will not be having a child soon. That's the first wrong thing you've said. But yes, y'all will have a child very quickly here within the week. So we got to do some quizzing on how much Jacob Beck actually knows about parenting. I've done this twice. I'm absolutely an expert in this field. Yeah. No question about it.
I've definitely not asked you.
Flawless performances over the past two pregnancies by me and deliveries and infanthoods. No mistakes at all. So let's see how Jacob Beck does. When was the last time you changed a diaper?
So it would have been my little brother, little sister. It's been at least 10. It's been about probably 14 years, maybe.
Give me your process on changing a diaper here. There are a couple of key things we've got to get figured out.
Process?
Yeah.
Well, first you have to clean the baby.
Yes, that'd be good.
And then, there's different types of diapers, but you have to wrap them around everything.
What we're looking for here is make sure that the clean diaper is put down first.
Yeah.
The child is put down, diaper on.
Okay.
So you can quickly cover up, because there can be significant issues if we don't cover up very quickly.
Well, it's a girl.
We don't want a second thing happening here.
Okay. I know about sometimes the boys they can.
Yes,
but
however.
Yeah.
sometimes we got the other end that's an issue, and we got to get that covered up.
Okay.
So let's make sure we make that happen.
All right.
All right. How many ounces of water does a newborn need per day?
Well, I thought they just needed milk.
That's correct answer.
Yeah.
No water for the newborns. It's formula. That's or breast milk. That works. So we're not doing water. That's a common mistake. My wife is a nurse practitioner. Sometimes people give babies water. It's not going to hurt the baby. They don't need it.
Yeah.
They need to use that stomach room for some formula or breast milk. Good job right there. How often does a baby need to eat?
Oh, shoot. Whenever they're like an infant, or they're like firstborn, they need to eat like every 2 or 3 hours, I think.
3 hours. Well done, Beck. You're doing quite well here. Is your car seat installed?
I have the base. I have the base installed. Yes.
Okay, and so we know how to click it in.
Yep,
Are we a master at this?
I don't know if you knew this, Hunt, but you can actually go to the sheriff's office and they will make sure that it's installed properly. So we went there and made sure that it's all checked out. It's good.
Car seats weigh approximently 900 pounds. I hope you're prepared for that.
Yeah.
All right, talking about sleep.
All right.
What does a baby sleep in?
Well, whenever they're newborns, usually it's a bassinet.
Okay, I'm talking about what are they dressed in? What do they need to be sleeping in?
Typically a onesie, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that the baby needs to sleep in?
You got to swaddle them.
A swaddle.
Yeah.
How's our swaddling technique, Beck? This is vital.
Well, I obviously haven't done it yet. I probably should practice, maybe get a doll or something to practice on, but I haven't done it yet. But I do know, I do know like the technique of it, but we'll
Why
see.
do you swaddle the baby?
Oh, because it helps them feel like they were in the womb.
A little bit like that. However, they also will move their arms.
Yeah, you don't
very
want them to
violently.
move their
they
arms,
wake
yeah.
up. So you got to tape them down. If you don't swaddle properly, it will cost you sleep.
Yes.
The baby doesn't really care. It's too young to know. It's just going to cry, whatever.
Yeah.
But you want to sleep, you need to get the swaddle
Okay.
correct. That's a big, big deal. Does the baby sleep on its back or on its belly?
Gotta sleep on the back.
Gotta sleep on the back. That is correct. Beck, I'm going to say that's a short little list of the things that I wanted to hit as the high points. That was not a bad performance.
I told you, Hunt. I actually told you this earlier today. I've been doing a lot of watching of videos, research, all kinds of stuff. I've been doing a lot.
Do you have any questions for me?
Well,
as the resident expert in this matter.
I don't think so. I've actually asked you multiple questions before, and you've been like, "Actually, that's Alyssa's side. I don't know." So
some of the stuff is Alyssa's side.
Yeah. So I don't think so.
The mother of my children is a pediatric nurse.
Yeah.
So
she's gonna
There's
know.
some things I don't deal with at all.
Makes sense.
Dosage of medicine, those types of things, I got nothing. But she can help with that. She takes her cell phone light and shines down there looking at tonsils and stuff. I can't do that. But it's all about support. Like, how is your nervous and anxiety level here?
I'm okay right now. I'm okay. I think.
I'm afraid to ask this question.
Okay.
What time do you wake up in the morning?
Usually around 8. I know what the future holds. Don't worry. I'm aware.
Is the nursery ready?
Yes, it is very
100%?
ready. Yes, 100%. And it's no not too much doing of my own. I did paint. We painted the walls.
Okay.
A nice pink. I was involved in that. However, most of this is all my wife. She is a very big planner, so she was already way ahead of the curve on this stuff.
My parents reportedly had a massive meltdown as they were painting my nursery before I was born.
Why?
Apparently, my dad painted half of like the wrong color or something. My mom saw it and started crying. It was a big deal.
Ooh.
But hopefully that hasn't happened. For
we got the right color.
That's good. I like to hear that.
Yeah.
And then sleeping in the hospital.
Yes.
You're a bit of a tall fella.
I am.
How do we feel this is going to work?
It's not going to work out well, I don't think. I
have a 6'5" friend who brought an air mattress.
Yeah,
have you looked into that?
That's actually, I haven't. That's actually not a terrible idea. I may have to consider that, actually.
Look, Women's Hospital, phenomenal place.
Great
that we
place,
we had the kids. Got sleeping arrangement.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a chore.
Yeah.
But at that point, you're not really in a position to complain very much.
Yeah, nobody's worried about us.
No one's going to listen to anything you have to say.
No.
You will do this, I would imagine. You're going to get up a few times while you're still in the hospital and look at the baby and try to make sure it's breathing.
Yeah.
I did that even with the second one, even though I knew it was breathing. They've got a thing on the foot that if there's something goes on, they'll all know. But it's you just have to do it. You're just like, are you sure? Because you're not moving very much. They sleep a lot. Beck, adequately prepared, we think. We'll see how things go over the next week. All right, that's hour number 1. We'll come back and have some fun with hour number 2. Last hour of the week, talking some LSU football and some Saints. We'll meet the freshmen and talk to Ronnie Rance after Sports Center on this Friday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.